Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. My name is Rory Bamford. I will be guest hosting this episode as Jared is off hosting the CIM Digital Conference, so he is gracefully allowing me to jump into his spot. Good morning, Garde. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing good, thank you.
Excellent. Have you had you heard of Fenner Dunlop before?
I have, yes.
Oh, okay. Well.
I've heard of them. I don't know much about what they do, so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about them.
Yeah, same here. And we have Carl Bouchard coming on the show, and he's going to give us the rundown on everything that they do and their expertise. So first, we'll jump over and hear from our sponsors.
Perfect. Okay, so first up, we've got the Bucket Shop. The Bucket Shop provides wear solutions for all mining bucket applications that extend life cycles of 3 to 4 times. They help clients improve productivity and reduce operating costs by providing innovative options, including their 5-piece cast lip system, cast heel shrouds, and mechanical 2- and 5-piece buckets with optional disposable front ends. Beyond buckets, they provide truck box assemblies and liners, custom builds, undercarriage systems, ground engaging tools, and abrasive blasting and painting. You can begin your savings today by visiting thebucketshop.ca. Next up, we also have Bit Service. Bit Service has been locally owned and operated in Saskatchewan since 1965. Formed to serve the Saskatchewan underground potash industry, they have grown to serve a wide range of mining sectors across Canada. Bit Service maintains a fabrication and repair facility in Saskatoon in which they design, manufacture, and repair cutting assemblies for underground boring machines, continuous miners, and road headers. They bring additional value with authorized distributorships with Cincinnati Mine Machinery, the Bodil Company, Kennametal, Ulma Conveyor Components, Hard Rock Vertex, and StarClean, which allow them to actively engage customers to help solve maintenance issues and increase mine efficiency and productivity. You can contact the Bit Service team by phone at 306-653-0988 or email them at admin@bitservice.ca. You can also visit their website, bitservice.ca. Next up, we also have Savona Equipment. Savona Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savonaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And last but not least, we've got Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or eddy fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com. I almost forgot their website there for a minute. There we go.
That's a good lineup. Do we want to do a quick shout out to CIM as well, our partner?
Yes, we can definitely do that. Wow, thank you. Apparently, I'm not doing that great this morning. Definitely, CIM is our partner in Mining Now. They've helped us put Mining Now together. It started off at MIMO, so thank you so much to CIM, especially because CIM, the expo just, I believe, today, last day of the CIM Expo 2020.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's
2021.
Right. So, 2021. See that's where oh my goodness. I need to start over.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But anyway, yeah, that's a good lineup of sponsors and some good companies there in the mining sector. So I guess we'll jump right into it now.
Yeah, for sure.
So welcome to the show, Carl. It's great to have you on. How are you doing this morning?
Very good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited. This is with working with Haley and Lauren to kind of organize this. It's exciting to have you join now. Could you just give us an overview, like who is Fenner Dunlop, kind of like a brief overview of what you do, what you specialize in?
Yeah, well, we are a conveyor belt manufacturer. We are owned by Michelin since 2018. Fenner started a long time ago, 160 years ago, to be precise, in UK.
Okay.
We manufacture rubber belt, and PVC belt. So the PVC belt are made in UK, and rubber belt that are sold in Canada and US are manufactured in Canada and in US.
Okay.
So yeah, we have 2 manufacturing plants in the States, in Port Clinton and in Toledo, Ohio, and we have one in Bracebridge in Ontario. We are the only heavyweight belt manufacturer in Canada right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, excellent. The I just wanted to quickly touch on for PVC belting, because that's what is that used for?
Well, it's mainly used where you need for special application like potash. Potash mining is a big customer of PVC belt.
Right. So like if you've got like these potash mines in Saskatchewan and other places in the US, of course,
correct.
They're bringing from the UK.
Yeah, they are mainly using PVC. So, and PVC, you're going to use PVC where you want to have the most fire resistant property on the conveyor belt. Okay. PVC is the material you're going to use.
I see. Okay, well that's good just to touch on. And with your belting, what is like in the manufacturing process? Is there something that puts you apart from basically your competitors with how you are manufacturing this material?
Well, right now I would say one of the best differentiating point that we have is we develop and manufacture our own fabric. We're one of the only ones that does that. So nobody else manufactured their fabric like we do. So all our fabric, are weaved in the States, in Lavonia, Georgia. We have our own weaving plant over there. So that's it helps us. We control every aspect of the manufacturing. So we have our own quality control on the fabric, both in before we put the fabric inside the belt and after. So it's a big differentiator. And on the other side, I would say that one thing that we do differently would be that the Michelin group, being part of the Michelin group is a big advantage for us. Michelin has a lot of capability in terms of R&D, so they are helping us, constantly, to improve our rubber compound.
Yeah, with a name like Michelin, that's just such a well-known brand. Does that help like so you're doing the fabrics and I'll get Garde to show a bit of the video, because the Lavonia, is that how you say the name, right? So
Lavonia in Georgia.
Pull that up so then the audience can see like that facility. So all that material that you're weaving, how does that? So you've got that, and then you've got the rubber as well. Like how does? I guess we'll get into that. So is that just one step then of the process for like the Lavonia the plant?
Well, there are multiple steps, but if we want to simplify it, we manufacture the fabric in Lavonia.
Okay.
Once the fabric, to have the rubber to adhere to the fabric, it needs to be treated. So we manufacture and we treat the fabric in Lavonia, and then this fabric is either shipped to Port Clinton, Toledo, Ohio, or Bracebridge in Ontario to be used in the belt manufacturing. So those 3 plants are not manufacturing fabric per se. They're not weaving the fabric. Everything is done at the same place.
I see. And you mentioned it that you're now in North America, you're the only one, like the whole process, you're basically controlling your whole supply chain. Is that
correct?
Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could explain to the audience and to me, how you've talked about like the fabric. So how is the makeup of a belt, like especially for like the different applications that belting's used in? Like I was working in, like prior to this, like working in the mining sector, so you deal with a lot of belting. But how is it put together?
Well, it's we mix the rubber depending on the recipe of that we need for this particular application. If the belt will need to withstand high heat, it's not the same compound. If it will need to withstand a chemical, it's something different. If it's a belt that will be more used in a cut and gouge application, like what we call a grade 1 application, let's say it's a belt that will be used under a crusher, so that
Mm,
we're going to mix a certain recipe. If
yeah.
it's a belt that it will be used on an abrasion application, which will be typically, let's say, a stacker, like just that will stack finished product fine, where there will be less cut and gouge on the cover of the belt, then it will be mixed with a different recipe. So once this rubber is mixed, it is then calendar in small, not small, but thin layer, or depending of the cover thickness, it will be then put on rolls. And after, you're going to have a set of roll that will be, one roll will be for the bottom cover. When we refer to cover, by the way, it's the layer of rubber that is either under the belt or on top of the belt. So we have the roll for the bottom cover, the skim between the ply. You're going to have roll with the fabric that will make the ply of the belt, and we have one roll that will be the top cover. Everything is fed into a large press, and we press the belt. We press all this, and we vulcanize basically the rubber on the fabric, and everything gets like fused together. And then we just open up the press, and we pull out the belt on a finished product roll, and then we start the process again until the belt is completely done.
You mentioned there are a couple of like applications, like whether it's like large, like the cut and gouge or the abrasion. Like how many different types of covers have to be used? Like,
Well, we have like 50 different covers,
oh, really?
depending on the application. And that's one thing that we need to make sure that that's a message we need to convey our customer. We need to inform them on everything that is available. So if you are using, for example, dedusting agent, you need to use a cover that will resist those dedusting agent, because the chemical might harm the rubber.
Mm.
If you're using the belt in a high heat application, you need a belt that will withstand the high temperature, and so on. So there's all kind of cover for all kind of application.
Is that is that part of like the recipe you're talking about? Does that go directly to the customer? Like will they tell you what sort of applications they're trying to do, and like you'll start putting together what they need?
Yes, most of that's ideally that's what we want to do. That's we want to see the application. We want to hear about the application. We want to understand the application, and once we do, we can offer the belt, the best belt for them. But yeah, we need to the more we know about the application, the best match we can offer the customer with the product with our product line.
Okay. Getting going again, focusing on your customers, and I'm sure you have a lot throughout Canada and the US. You're in Canada though, so we'll kind of
Correct.
stay with that. But is there some typical mistakes that you might see customers make at times when they're trying to select a conveyor belt?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. We most typically, what we see is once the customer cover the basic need, they will focus mostly on the price. And it's not always the best way to purchase the most efficient belt. If you're looking for productivity and longevity, an example, and maybe we can talk about it a bit later on. There's two types of belt, same application, and based on the cover property, one belt will outlast the first one by twice the length, twice the time. So
Mhm.
if you have those are two very good belts, but the one, you can purchase one that will last twice as long, but you're going to pay a premium of 15%. So
Okay.
so we need to make sure that we offer yes, we can offer what you are asking for. That's the belt that will go there. But if we let's say improve on the cover compound, you can get a much better product. And it's, that's a big dilemma. Will the customer, this one is an easy one, like 15% more, twice as more usage. That's a no-brainer. But
Yep.
it's easier said than done when you are on let's say on the public bid or those things. Many customer will focus strictly on the price. So that's we want to try to inform them as much as possible.
Okay. I think you touched on it. Now, so I just have in my notes here, there's the carcass, and I'm just the carcass and the two components of the belt. I think you touched on them, but just to
Yeah.
clarify, what are those two components before I get into, like, I've got a question here, but can you just clarify that?
Yeah. So a conveyor belt is mainly you have two components: the carcass, which is the fabric that will go inside the belt.
Oh,
The f-
okay.
the so the carcass is what gives the belt the strength to carry the load,
Okay.
and to withstand the horsepower of the drive and all that. So the carcass that's basically the heart of the belt. And the cover, we need to keep in mind the cover's sole purpose is to protect the carcass. So because that's the only thing we
Right.
need to protect. So as long as the carcass will be intact, the belt will run. So that's that. So those are the two main components, and we need to focus on. Let's say we replace a belt. We need to focus. Do we replace a belt because we're having a carcass failure or carcass issue, or we're having a cover issue? The idea is not to replace a black rubber belt with the first black rubber belt. We
Okay.
need to replace the belt with the best belt possible for the application. And that's what we're trying to do.
How would you, to get into like the bad part, how do you see like if a carcass, what would make a carcass fail?
Well, and and uh, and I'm just going to talk about from a belt manufacturer standpoint.
Mm,
Just I'm not going to talk about let's say shoot design or any of that.
okay.
So a carcass will fail most of the time. It's because there will be large object, either large rock, with very sharp rock or bigger rock than what the belt normally sees from a big drop, and it will puncture the belt and it will create a hole in the belt. So once you start to have those puncture on the belt, then you need to stop and fix it, and up until the belt has enough repair that it needs to be replaced. So the goal is to once the customer replace the belt, is that there's no more cover on the belt. But let's say you purchase the best cover available, okay, but you don't have the right carcass. You're going to replace your belt not because your cover is worn out, but because your carcass is damaged. So you're gonna lose money, and you're gonna pay a cover for nothing because your application, you ran out of carcass before you ran out of cover. So we need to fix the carcass. We need to address the carcass situation with the best carcass possible.
What it get so is there techniques that Fenner Dunlop uses to
Mhm.
basically strengthen the life and longevity of these belts?
Yeah, and the for a long period of time, the um, the immediate reaction if the customer was experiencing carcass failure, it was in beefing, they were beefing up the number of ply or the PIW. We need to
Sorry,
to
can
to
what
to
were they beefing up?
the PIW. So they were
Okay,
increasing the PIW is that's the most common rating from which we rate a belt. So if
okay.
we say it's a 600 PIW, so it means that the working tension of the belt is 600 pound per inch of width of the belt. So that's the strength of the belt. That's it. Let's put it this way. So that's the
Okay.
most common. That's the most common measure that we go by. So if let's say, and they had a ply belt, 3 ply, 600 PIW, they experienced a lot of puncture, and the immediate reaction was we're going to beef it up to an 800 PIW. We're going to have thicker ply, and it might prevent punctures. So it's not the best way, because as you beef up the number of ply, then your pulley gets too small. and you don't get the good performance out of, in terms of puncture resistance just by doing that. So our response to that is we have different carcass that can withstand those high impact. For example, if we have like a ply belt, will be the belt with all those ply flat fabric that will make the carcass. We have what we call the Nova X. The Nova X is a single ply belt. It's not weave like a regular weave, like like in a square pattern, or what we call flat duck. It's a dual crimp. It's a more, I would say, intricate carcass where you have a bigger adhesion and much more puncture resistance and rip and tear resistance. So that's like that's let's say that's the one grade or one step above a regular ply belt. So we're still at the same PIW, we're still at the same troughing capability, we're still at the same load carrying capability, but by changing the design of the carcass, we have increased the resistance of the belt in terms of puncture.
Okay, and we
So
can
that's
bring Goude will be able to bring photos up to show
yes,
those different
yeah,
weave patterns. Because when I'm looking at it, like, so I think you just said you've got the ply, like the Plylock,
yep.
then the Nova X, and then do you want to quickly touch on? It looks like
The
is there any?
USFLEX,
What is it? What?
the USFLEX. That's our
Oh yeah.
yes. Well, the USFLEX that's our flagship carcass. That's the belt that makes us say that our belt withstand the most demanding application, the longest lasting belt in the world.
Okay.
That's because of the USFLEX. The USFLEX is widely known in the industry, and most most of the time when a customer starts to use USFLEX on the high impact application, they never go back to a ply belt.
Oh really?
So it's day and night different. To give you an idea, the most common rip a belt will get will be on the lengthwise. There will be a large rock that will puncture the belt, and it will stay jammed over there, and then the belt will just rip on the large portion of it.
Are you saying like if a rock basically drops down on it, like if it's getting fed, drops on it, smashes through, but this
Yeah,
and just like a regular belt, it'll just tear until that
yeah.
thing cuts off?
Yeah. So like a ply belt, it's more or less, and I don't want to oversimplify things, but a ply belt is made of fabric that is weaved essentially like, when let's say we want to tear a piece of cotton cloth, for example.
Yeah.
Once it's started, it's fairly easy to rip or to tear, I should say.
Yeah.
So the USFLEX, the straight work carcass, which is the USFLEX, or the dual crimp, which is the Nova X, those belt they have two big or important attribute, I should say, to withstand those harsh application. Their puncture resistance is far more greater than the ply belt. But if we ever encounter a situation where we have a sharp object that will, manage to go to puncture the belt, then our rip and tear resistance is 3 times, for the same PIW belt, the same load carrying capability. We're talking same tension of belt. We're gonna have, the belt will be, well, it's gonna be 3 times the rip, and the tear, the rip resistance on the lengthwise. If we talk about this one, is 3 times greater than a ply belt.
Okay.
So yeah, so the puncture resistance is a lot greater, and then the rip resistance is as well. So there's like, we have like two safety, I would say, safety measure to prevent that from happening. Often, what will happen is the belt will, if jam the belt, the belt is so resistant to rip, it will just stop, and the motor will stop. It will, and then we're gonna have the breaker will trip basically
Okay.
because the belt is hard to rip.
So it's got that much resistance
Yeah,
that the entire basically you're gonna
yeah,
save Can you repair? Can you, if that does happen and it does puncture, like does a small tear, can you repair, or
We
how does that work?
we can repair small puncture or
Yeah,
small tear, but if it's a long if the damage is long, you cannot repair. The belt needs to be replaced.
so that's why it's so important to have those
Yes,
so
correct.
strong.
And yeah, well, and don't get me wrong. The belt is made of rubber, nylon, and polyester. So let's say if something, for example, if a very sharp piece of metal falls into the chute, it's still possible to
Yeah,
to slit this belt
yeah.
on the entire length of the belt. But most of the time, the USFLEX and the Nova X are carcass that are, far more resistant to a regular ply belt.
So that's a pretty good breakdown. So that's the Plylock, the Nova X, and you say us, is it USFLEX?
USFLEX, yeah.
And then, so are those basically the three that you supply?
Well, yeah, those are, those account for most of the belt we supply. On the textile side, we have steel cord belt that we can talk if you want to, but on the textile side, we have, those are the one that we sell the most often. We also have, for very, super heavy duty application,
Yeah.
we can weave a belt with the USFLEX weaving, so we have the rip and tear resistant. But instead of weaving it with polyester and nylon, we're going to weave it with Aramid, with Kevlar, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the belt will be made. The carcass will be strictly made out of Kevlar. This belt can stop bullets. So, but the biggest advantage of this belt is when you have a puncture application that is beyond anything else. So a customer, and we have we sold one and do have a bit of data on this. So
Okay.
so they increase. They were using a steel cord. We need to say that most of the time those belts will be used on those long conveyor. So they were
Are
using a
those
steel cord.
those like multi-mile conveyors that you'll see? Is that
Yeah,
where something like
yeah,
this is used?
yeah. Well, this customer, yes, but it could be
Oh,
used on a shorter conveyor as well.
okay. I'll let you. Sorry
So
for interrupting there. I
yeah,
just
no, that's fine. That's fine. So the customer, the best they ever did was 6 months. So they never made more than 6 months. And the first Kordflex, we call the Aramid belt the Kordflex. The first Kordflex we installed over there, they made 40 months out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a tremendous improvement, and they figure out that increasing the life of the belt, and not only that, reducing the number of shutdown that the belt needs to be repaired. It was the Kordflex was paying for itself.
Okay. So this customer, how did they decide to? Was it basically just consulting with you,
Yeah,
like that they
not with
decided?
me personally,
But
but with some of my coworkers
yeah.
and our technical department. And once we assess the application, once we see the application, once we physically walk the conveyor and have a good understanding of the application, we can commit to yes, you will improve with the Kordflex. So, but and once the customer install one and he see the results for himself, then they decide that yes, it's worth it.
Let's
So
say,
yeah, saving on shutdown.
yeah.
They went from 160 hours over the first 15 months to 26. So they save a lot of shutdown, and they
They dropped.
only
They only
yeah,
had to cut down for 26 hours after.
yeah, they increase their uptime by 86%.
Incredible.
So by going to the Kordflex. So the Kordflex, and it's not the Kordflex will not repair, or I would say would fix any rip issue per se, because the rip and tear resistance is somewhat in the range of the SFLEX. Where you're going to have a tremendous improvement is puncture resistance. The puncture resistance is just, through the roof because it's a Kevlar belt basically.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive that it's been designed
Yeah.
with that bulletproof.
Yeah, it's not for every application, but
Yeah.
in some cases it's a problem solver.
Yeah. The i- so that's a lot of the like the basically like trying to avoid that carcass damage. Does the is there ways that you did touch on it, I think, but could you go into a little bit more of if there's ways to prevent the cover wear?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Once we have fixed the carcass issue, then we need to work. What is the best cover, and for the application. So, for example, we have, and let's talk about abrasion because abrasion is an easy
Yeah.
one, to fix. We measure abrasion. There's a specific test made to measure abrasion, so we can rate abrasion resistance factually between two belts. So we can say this belt is at 100 and this belt is at 50. And for this rating, the lower the number, the better. So
Lower is better for abrasion.
yes.
Okay.
So I can briefly explain how it's worked, how it's done. We cut a piece of rubber, which is a predetermined size. We put the piece of rubber in a machine. The machine will drag the piece of rubber on a sandpaper drum for a certain period of time with a specific pressure on it. After this test, we will measure how much cubic millimeter the piece of rubber will lose. So if we make the test and the piece of rubber, and we measure that by weighting the piece of rubber before and after. So it's easy to say that, okay, so based on the weight loss, this piece of has lost 50 square millimeter, for example. And this one has lost 100, not squares, sorry, cubic millimeter. And this one has lost 100. So it's fair to say that in an abrasion application, the belt who lasts 50 cubic millimeter will last twice as long as the belt who lasts 100.
Okay.
So going back to this, so the standard is if a customer asks us to say, oh, I need a grade 2 belt, or there's an application they've been purchasing grade 2 forever, and they so the requested price for the bare minimum, like a grade 2, that we will supply a belt that will be that will be rated to 120, for example, 120 din abrasion index.
Yeah.
But if there are belts on the market, and we manufacture belt that cover that will withstand abrasion application, a lot better than just a typical grade 2 application. We have some belt that will score like 20 on the din abrasion index. So if you're purchasing, and I'm going to take you back to the first example I had,
Yeah.
the customer will, by paying 15% more, and don't necessarily quote me on this, but roughly 15% more
Yeah.
for the belt, he will double the din abrasion resistance. So it's fair to expect that the belt will last twice as long. And the most interesting example is we had a customer last year, and they always purchase the same belt. They always purchase the same belt, which was a good belt. I'm not, and they were not purchasing this belt from us, but from somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's a very demanding application. It's a mix of abrasion and a bit of cut and gouge. The lump size is fairly big, but nevertheless, it's a tough application. They never made more than 14 months.
Oh.
So
Okay.
for the last, as long as they remember, the best performance they had was 14 months. So our response to to this situation was we quoted a belt that was significantly more expensive than the belt they used to purchase, but we quoted this belt with our best cover for the application. And after, we only have one report because it's fairly new. So after 3 months of service, the belt has lost like 0.4 millimeter of thickness. The cover is 16 millimeter. We could extrapolate that at this pace, the belt will last, uh, uh, 10 years, 120 months, point
That's a,
four every 3 months, over a period of over a thickness of 16 millimeter, it brings us to 10 years. Probably the belt won't last 10 years. Something might happen, 10 years is very long.
what type of application are they using it for?
It's one of the belt that it's in a gold mine,
Okay.
and it's a gold mine. It's a very demanding application. Lump size is big. We're
Yeah.
talking about 16 inches and
Okay.
6 foot drop. So but it's like I said, it's a mix of cut and gouge and abrasion. But we went there with our most expensive cover, basically. But the belt was not 3 times the price. So the cover, the customer has a big saving because they're going to reduce the amount of shutdown. The belt will last longer, and because at the end of the day, what we want to do is to offer the best cost per ton over the life of the belt for the money the customer is investing.
Right.
So
That's and
that's
that's where you get the longest lasting belt, because that'd be pretty incredible if it did happen to get to that 10 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's like right now, it's even hard to measure, cover loss on 0.4 millimeter.
Yeah.
So on an average, so it's a difficult one. The belt has lost so little that we kind of agree that it was like 0.4 with the customer, but it depends where, it's so little that you have to be so precise. So we'll see as the belt is used, but technically in 3 months, when they make, the best they make is 14 months, the belt should have lost like 25% of the cover or so.
And that's a gold mining application. Is there
Yeah.
certain products that are tougher on belts? Like, does it also depend on what you're, say in Canada, a lot of mining, does it depend on what you're mining?
Yes. Well, like everything that, rocks, everything that when you move rocks, like in a gold mine, diamond mine, iron ore mine, those are all hard on the belt. And if you compare it with, let's say, potash, or if you compare it with, for example, coal is not necessarily very hard on the cover of the belt. But everything that, anything that you mine on hard rocks is like most of the mineral are. It's fairly similar.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does it answer your question?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, this
Yeah.
is good information. You would think, oh, it's just a rubber belt, but there's so much more that goes
Yeah.
into that. So it's
And often the conveyor design will play a big role.
okay.
Conveyor design, chute design, the operation. But once, everything being equal, I can only talk from a conveyor belt manufacturer point of view.
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes the customer can do some conveyor modification to increase the longevity of the belt. But yeah. So, but from my point of view, I can only respond to those applications with if it's a cut and gouge with the best cut and gouge cover we can offer, that will outlast, a regular cut and gouge. Because again, if we just look at the price and the basic requirement, I think sometimes we're missing the boat, because there's so much we can do if the customer is willing to look at what is the best belt for the application.
Probably comes down to the information they want to provide as well. It seems like that's a pretty big key with
Yeah.
collecting the right information, or
Yeah.
select
Well,
the right belt.
most of the time when they try one, and they see the result,
Yeah.
they are very willing to share the information on the other ones as well.
So there's the grade 1 and 2 applications. Is there other things that you have to watch for basically with these belts?
Yeah. Well, yes, for, depending on which, like grade 1 and 2 again is a, general term to determine if the belt will have. Grade 1 means that the belt will have to withstand cut and gouge, it's a cut and gouge application, meaning that, let's say, under a crusher, it's a grade 1 application because the lumps are big, they're sharp, they're dropping from a significant height on the belt, and when they fall on the belt, they tend to cut and gouge the cover. That's why we call it a grade 1. And a grade 2 belt is, further away from the crusher. It's more grade 2 application. So those are the two main ones. But between all this, there's tons of application. There are belts that will have to withstand, for example, if you're in a tar sand, that will have to withstand bitumen. We can manufacture belt that will withstand cold weather, a very cold application. We have belt working well above the Arctic Circle. So that's
really?
If we manufacture, yes, yeah. So if we manufacture a belt for an application like this, when we mix the compound recipe, we need to keep in mind that this belt will work at minus 50 Celsius.
Okay.
So that's a bit different than if we would be in Arizona, for example.
Yeah. So that actually, yeah. So you've got basically got heat resistance, you've got cold resistance. That's all a part of it.
Yeah, chemical resistant, oil resistance. We have all those different compounds to fit the application.
Yeah, it's amazing how one product, especially in the mining sector, and that's such a big part of the Canadian economy, there's so many different options, and just getting to how much longer some of these have lasted for your customers. It's
yeah, and and we can understand why a customer will sometimes think that they're all the same. When you look at it, it's a black rubber belt roll, with the thickness, and we think that the thickness will be, and the PIW, the resistance of the strength of the belt will be the only thing that we need to look at. But we can often compare conveyor belt with tires. So if you and there's as much difference between two conveyor belt as there is between a Formula One tire, and a tractor tire.
That makes a lot of sense. That's almost like a simplification, but it's almost a good one for
people. But it's easy when you're talking about the tire, it's easy to see because you look at the tire, you see how it is, and you're gonna see that this is a sports car tire and this is, a golf cart tire. You see the difference when you look at it, but not on a conveyor belt. They all look the same when they're rolled on a core, but there are big differences.
Yeah, for people that are in like across Canada specifically, because that's where you are. I want to just do you service all of Canada? Like,
yes.
And is that? I guess if you just kind of go through just a quick like how people where you service, kind of like what your regions are, if that's the case.
So yes, we work in Canada with distributor. So we have distributor to cover the entire country. So that's the best way to go. One thing I need to mention is that as a manufacturer, it's not necessarily efficient for us to manufacture short pieces of belt. So these guys will purchase the belt as wide as possible, as long as possible to ensure the best price, and they will cut it and slit it to length and to your width, and they will sell it and install it to the different end users. So and talking about distributor, I'm very proud to say that we have a new distributor in Northern Ontario. So your channel is the first place we officially announce it. So we're very proud to say that to announce that Dunrite Rubber will be our distributor for Northern Ontario. So that's a very good addition to the Fenner Dunlop distribution family. So that being said, I also need to mention that all our distributor network are supported with by account managers. So in Canada, we have 3 territory account manager. These guys, they are Canadian. They live in Canada. We have Alexandre who covers Quebec and the Maritimes. We have Joe who covers Ontario and Manitoba, and Brent who covers the western part of Canada. So these 3 guys, their sole purpose is to support our distributor network, support the end user, and make sure that we sell the best product possible to our customer. So don't hesitate if you want to reach out to them, put them to the test. These guys are pretty good, and they will help you out fixing your conveyor issues.
Excellent, excellent. That's good, and we'll have all the links and everything, of course, where they can
Yes.
find you, and we'll
Yeah,
even.
on our website, you can find the map with all our distributors.
Okay, great. We'll put I'll get Goude to put a picture up of that as well. Um,
Sure.
quickly before, I mean, this has been. You almost don't think there's that much to learn off of just a conveyor belt, but I wanted to quickly kind of finish off with a little bit about your background. You've got extensive knowledge, as people will be able to tell in this field. Um, so when did you start with Fenner Dunlop?
Well, I started with Fenner Dunlop only a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay.
Prior to that, I was working with one of Fenner's distributor.
I see.
So I was with the distributor for 5 years prior to moving with Fenner, and before that. But my background is machinery, is heavy equipment. Um, I started in the heavy equipment a long time ago, and I was always in the heavy equipment until I had an opportunity to work in conveyor belt. And like everybody else, when you're outside this industry, you don't realize how much there is, in conveyor belt.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I find it, it's motivating, it's interesting. Every conveyor are different, every application are different, and you can make a big difference, because going from 14 months to technically 10 years is
Yeah.
quite an improvement. So when you do those things, when you work with your customer, it's very rewarding, it's very interesting, to come up to your customer with something different. So
Yeah,
that's
is there some you've touched on that part of it, like seeing like the customer save so much just based on the lifespan of picking the right belt. Is there been some interesting, like say, lessons that like during your time with the distributor and now with Fenner Dunlop that maybe you could share with the audience?
well. If one thing I'd like to, a point that I like to stress the most is, ask question. If I would be a customer and I would ask question to my belt distributor, I would aim for, yes, this belt costs X, but is there something I can, invest and get a better product? And that's at Fenner, that's what we do. We want to push the premium product because this is where we think we can make the biggest difference. We are not good at manufacturing cheap belt. That's not that's not our role. We
That's good to hear.
manufacture, yeah, we're not good at that. So we are good at manufacturing premium belt that will give the customer the best, bang for their buck on the long run. That's what we do, and I think that's the only response we can have to, you know cutting the prices and foreign belt, that come from Asia, not to mention them. But
Yeah.
so we're not on that part of the business. We are more on the premium product, and we think we can make a difference. And it's also the philosophy of Michelin. When a customer purchase Michelin for their whole truck or the loader or their equipment, they can go out there and purchase cheaper tire,
Yeah.
but they still purchase Michelin. So why? Because they get the best usage out of the tire.
Right.
So we're pretty much in the same boat.
So the one thing you did mention, you said about the steel cord, Carl, and
Mhm.
would you be able to? So we've gone through like the main ones that you've manufactured. Could you touch on that a little bit as well?
Yeah, well, customer use steel cord when they need to carry material over long distances. So the steel cord is the main belt for those applications. So we
Okay.
do manufacture steel cord. Most of our steel cord are manufactured in Bracebridge in Ontario. So we manufacture our belt over there. And steel cord, obviously we do not manufacture our steel cord. So that not the steel cord, sorry, the cable that goes
Right.
into the belt.
Yeah.
We purchase those like everybody else does.
Yeah.
But what we do differently is we can uh, lay a layer of USFLEX fabric into the steel cord. Because the steel cord, the issue with steel cord is if we have an high impact application, the rock that will fall on the belt will damage the steel cords. So the cable they're not able to withstand impact. They will break. So in order to to increase the belt longevity, we will in the layer of rubber in the cover, we will put one layer of USFLEX fabric, for example.
Yeah.
And if the large rock will fall on the belt, it will dissipate the energy over a greater area, and it will save the cables. So it's gonna increase the longevity of the belt for a much better period.
Okay, excellent.
That's what we do differently. And the other thing is it's not released yet, but we're working on deploying a new application called Bird's Eye. So we have a steel cord monitoring system that monitor the steel cord. Let's say you have a long overland conveyor.
Yeah.
You want to know, is my belt in good condition? Am I having cable ruptured? So we have a whole system that will monitor the cable condition, and it will report this condition on an application on a smartphone. So
might have to get you back to talk about that in more detail once it's released.
Yeah, sure. So that's a very interesting application.
Yeah, so it hasn't been released yet, but it's coming soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I think we're on the it was released internally.
Right.
But then maybe we can do something once it's deployed. I don't think the ads are out yet, but we are on the verge of releasing everything for that.
Yeah, technology is such a big key now with so many of with heavy industry in general, just because it can save so much time and money with the use of that technology. So that'll be very interesting. Yeah. Really glad you were able to join, Carl. Thanks again. I've learned just a ton, and you provided,
good,
I think, some great information. Basically, if you need a long-lasting conveyor belt, definitely check out Fenner Dunlop. Again, all the links and everything will be up there. Goude, did you learn all about belting now?
I did.
Perfect.
I think I need more though. I think it's a topic that no matter how many times you read or you hear, there's always something else that you can learn. So it would be very nice to have him back on and kind of unpack those other apps in the new so it'd be cool.
Yeah, that's great. I guess Goude, if you can just let everybody know where they can find this episode. I know if you can let everybody know where to find us, basically.
For sure. First up, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2 episodes a week on there. Don't miss a single one. And we've got more to come. Also, if you'd like to be part of the show, whether it's Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or The Crownsman Show, please contact us, info@crownsman.com. Yeah.
Excellent.
I think that's good.
Excellent.
And today's a goodbye to Rory as he heads back to behind the scenes of the show.
Oh yes, until a future date.
Yeah. So next episode you will see Jared.
Perfect.
All right. No, I think that's good. So thank you, and we will see you on the next episode.